Welcome all. After having discussed the basics of postmodernism in my last two videos, in this video and in the upcoming ones, I would be discussing some of the postmodern thinkers and their works. I'll begin with Lyotard today. Lyotard, born in Versailles in the year 1924, was a French philosopher, sociologist, and literary theorist. When still a child, he wanted to be a writer but gave up the dream after he finished writing an unsuccessful fictional novel at the age of 15. He studied philosophy at the Sorbonne in the late 1940s. His thesis had the title Indifference as an Ethical Concept and analyzed the forms of indifference and detachment in Zen Buddhism, Stoicism, Taoism, and Epicureanism. As a background to Lyotard's postmodernist turn, what one needs to know about is his affiliations between the year 1954 and 1966. Though even before that period, traces of the future was evident in his 1954 publication, Phenomenology, a work out of his reading of Husserl and Merleau-Ponty. Here, he is concerned with the phenomenologist's attempt to find a third way between subjectivism and objectivism, avoiding the problems of each other. Thus, he attempted a destructuring of the opposing structures, which shows the nascent seeds of postmodernism in his work. But well in context about the period that was crucial, that is from 1954 to 1966, a trajectory needs to be understood, and that is of the socialist movements, especially in context of France. To begin with, as you all know, socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by the social ownership of the means of production and workers' self-management of enterprises. Socialism emerged with the development of industrial capitalism at the start of the 19th century and emphasized on the organic unity of society, in equality, and also in abolition of private enterprise. Now, speaking about France, after the French Revolution, activists and theorists influenced the early French labor and socialist movements. The Paris Commune, a government that ruled for about 60 days, brought a major early implementation of socialist ideas. But slowly differences began to crop in. In the First International, founded in 1864 in London, which united diverse revolutionary currents including French followers of Proudhon, Blanquist, English trade unionists, social democrats, conflict arose due to wide variety of philosophies and basically on account of differences in their proposed strategies for achieving their vision. At the end of 19th century, syndicalism emerged in France, inspired mostly by Proudhon and later by Peltier and Georges Sorel. Syndicalism is an economic system that organizes industries in confederations or syndicates, and the economy is managed by the negotiation between specialists and worker representatives of each field, comprising multiple non-competitive categorized units. By 1917, the French section of the Workers' International was gaining importance. Not far in Russia, Vladimir Lenin was allowed to return from exile in Switzerland, which led to the Bolsheviks becoming more influential day by day. Then finally, in 1918, Russian Socialist Federative Soviet Republic, the world's first constitutionally socialist state, was established. The Socialist Revolutionary Party, together with the Bolsheviks, made this possible. But soon there again emerged differences between them, and the party list of the left wing of Socialist Revolutionary Party was declared outdated. The centralization and abandonment of the Soviets by the Bolshevik Party led to the left-wing uprisings. The Bolshevik Russian Revolution launched communist parties in many countries, and in 1919, Lenin and Trotsky organized the world's communist parties into an international association of workers, the Comintern or the Third International. I won't talk anymore on socialism or on Lenin, but on Trotsky and the ism that came from him, Trotskyism. Trotsky, considered as the best Bolshevik by Lenin during October Revolution, was removed in 1927 from power and expelled from the Bolsheviks party. Trotsky was suspicious of the result of the French Revolution and opined that in France a regime was established wherein the bourgeoisie overthrew the existing French feudalist system. The bourgeoisie also established a regime of democratic parliamentary institution, but the democratic rights were not extended to a universal franchisee, and thus workers' freedom was not gained in the process. So Trotsky's theory was one of permanent revolution. By the discussion till this point, I believe most of you have understood that the concept of socialism theoretically was more peaceful and utopic than in practice, and various elements entered into the path so as to pinch the utopia out of the optimistic equalitarian theory. And so, as a result of disenchantment with Trotsky, a French-based radical libertarian socialist group emerged in the post-World War II period with the name Socialism or Barbarie, meaning socialism or barbarism. They wanted to provide theoretical resources to contribute to socialist revolution, critiquing other existing socialist strands. The group comprised of both intellectuals and workers and agreed with the idea that the main enemies of society were the bureaucracies which governed modern capitalism. They were also critical of Leninism, rejecting the idea of a revolutionary party, and placed an emphasis on the importance of workers' council. Thus, like Cornelius Castoriadis, the animating personality of the group underneath their theories was the idea that social change involves radical discontinuities that cannot be understood in terms of any determinate causes or presented as a sequence of events, and also the concept that legitimization of a system evolves out of the rules defined by the system itself. Castoriadis was of the opinion that in spite of their opposition, communism and capitalism's mode of operation was the same legitimization process. Thus, socialism or barbarism was a group emerging out of a demystification and reality check in context of socialism, communism and Marxism, though they believed in the end product of socialism and Marxism. Thus, socialism or barbarism was a group emerging out of demystification and reality check in context of socialism, communism and Marxism, though they believed in the end product of socialism and Marxisms. So now let's get back to Lyotard. Lyotard was the member of Socialism and Barbarism from 1954 and resigned from the Worker Power, a splinter group of the party, in 1966. So from here it can be said that as a member of the party he believed in its ideals and was demystified with the ideas and actions of socialism, communism and Marxism, and alike the group considered himself as an intellectual militant to the cause of socialist revolution. But his resignation was a result of his loss of faith. In 1974, his book Libidinal Economy was published, which furthers his claim and also paves the path for our understanding of Lyotard, postmodernist theorist. In Libidinal Economy, he distanced himself from Marxism, and the reason for the same is the rigid structuralist approach of Marxism that imposed systematization of desires through strong emphasis on industrial production as the ground culture. In Libidinal Economy, moving from such an approach, he speaks on the micropolitics of desire. He writes here, "The libido never fails to invest regions, and it does not invest under the rubric of lack and appropriation. It invests without condition. condition is rule and knowledge. What he attempts to speak here is about desire, which according to him is fluid in its nature and always has an object which comes not always out of any deficit or confirmation or even condition. The conditions used to systematize desire under a structure is rule and knowledge, which can also be termed as modernist reason, but has no connection whatsoever with desire. This thus can be understood as a reason of collapse of the grander narratives of socialism, communism and Marxism on account of disillusionment the common man felt with regards to them. He speaks of the great zero here. The zero is the space where several libidinal positions are affirmed together. The political economist of capitalism wants to settle down the pain coming in desire on account of its incomposability, whereas libidinal economists recognize the violation of the composable, but should not attempt to moralize or systematize the same. So you can well understand that he was against all the systematization or all these totalitarian discourses, but believed in the fragmentation that existed within coherence. Just from it follows that here, through his libido thesis, Lyotard is talking about heterogeneity, pluralism, destructuring and also deconstructing. He is trying to point at the loopholes of totalizing discourses and hence through his thesis marked a breakthrough, a movement towards full-fledged arena of postmodernism. Lyotard, to his credit, has many other books, as for instance The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge published in the year 1979, Just Gaming 1979, The Different Phrases in Dispute published in the year 1983. All these books also bring out the thesis of postmodernism more clearly, and there are also stages of development that we can see in these books. But well, we won't be talking about all these works in detail, though our discussion on Lyotard won't stop here. But well, after discussing Baudrillard and Deleuze briefly in the upcoming videos, we'll get back to Lyotard and I'll do with you an article by him answering the question, what is the postmodern? So for today, I'd like to conclude. Hope you all find today's discussion useful. Thanks to all of you for joining me.